Hi, this is Mighty CS Man. I teach a full curriculum in Java programming using the Building Java Programs book and the Practice It website. See my course orientation for how to use the Practice It website. Today we are looking at exercise 5.4. Chapter 5 is about indeterminate loops and also random numbers. If you haven't already seen my video for self-check 5.5, please go see that first, because that explains how you use random number generation. So in this problem, what we want to do is create a method that keeps printing these lines where each line contains a random number of these x's between 5 and 19 inclusive. So that means at minimum 5 and at most including 19, not 20, and until it prints a line with 16 or more characters. And notice this last line has 17 characters, so it will print out a line with more than 16 characters. So I frequently get students who are confused on where to begin with a problem that is anything more than just trivial. So I want you to describe the process, the thought process for how to do this. I will warn you, I'm not going to give you the full code for this problem, but I am going to at least set you up for success. So whenever you're looking at a problem, you want to look at what you're given, where you're going, and what tools you have available for you. So what are we given? I already click on the show header here. So we've got this function here. It takes no arguments, and we're supposed to be doing printing here. So where we're going is we're going to have to be printing, right? So I'm going to go ahead and start, say, printing x's. Okay, we know that. And we need to have random numbers from 5 to 19. Okay, we know we're going to have to compute random numbers 5 to 19. And we're going to have a loop here, right? We're going to have a loop until line has 16 or more chars. Okay, so we know we've got a loop. Remember, chapter 5 is about indeterminate loops, so we should already have a pretty strong hint of what we need to do here. So we've looked at what we're going to get, and now we have to think about what tools do we have at our disposal. Okay, so we know we need a loop until the line has 16 or more characters. So this tells me it's a Sentinel loop. And if you've been reading chapter 5.2, you know that a Sentinel loop is a loop where we keep on generating something or asking something until we get a specific value. Okay, in this case, it's not a user. We're not asking them for a number. We're actually going to be generating a random number. Okay, so a real simple form of that is going to be a do-while loop. Okay, sometimes you need to do something before, but in general, you're going to have a do-while loop. So let's go ahead and put a do and a while, and I'm just going to leave this condition blank there for a minute. And in fact, I'll put in a little comment here that while line has less than 16 characters, right? Because we know that if the line is 16 or more characters, we're going to stop. Okay. We know we're printing some x's. Okay, so we've got to print x's. The question is, how do we build that string of x's? Well, I think the more interesting question is, how are we going to get the random numbers? Once we get the random numbers, it'll be easier to print the x's. Okay, printing x's because we're going to use that random number in printing these x's, right? Okay, so we have to generate a random number from 5 to 19. So remember, there's two ways of generating random numbers. You can either do int. So it starts out as math.random, and that returns a floating point between 0 and 1. So if we want, let's do a different case for a minute. Let's say that I'm generating random numbers from 0 to 10. Okay, so I'm going to multiply that by 10, and I'll comment here 0 to 9. Sorry, there's 10 numbers there from 0 to 9. Now, this is going to generate a floating point, okay, and that's going to multiply by 10, and then this should convert it to an integer. So now how do we print that random number of x's? In fact, let me just do this first. Okay, so while line has less than or equal to 16 characters, let's just put in here. So it's nice that we have this variable set up here, because now instead of having to look at how long the string length is, which we can just actually use num. But there's one small problem with num, and we'll see that in just a second. Well, num is less than 16. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this. I know it's not going to work. I just want to see what happens. Okay, so we've got two things that I was mentioning here. One is num is actually out of scope. Okay, so num is valid in this section here, not outside. So we need to move num outside, and then now num will be valid. We can go ahead and run that. That solves that one problem. Lossy conversion from double to int. This is absolutely correct, and Java will do this for you, but it's going to complain. So let's go ahead and convert that to an integer. I don't need to put these last brackets around here, but if I want to add anything more to the expression, I will need it. Oh, right, yeah. So this is never going to stop because I'm only doing it up to 10. So I'm gonna stop here and wait for a second. All right, it went on its infinite loop, but it finally timed out. I'm gonna change this to 20. Okay, so this will be 0 to 19. All right, so it didn't pass any of the tests. That's fine. I wasn't expecting it to, but it didn't. I know that it works, and I really encourage people to, as you're writing code, write something that works. Okay, even if it doesn't do anything. Write something that works so you know you've got at least a basic structure that works for you, okay? All right, so what have we done so far? We just generated these random numbers. In fact, let's do something that's not going to be the correct solution, but we can just have something that works. I'll go ahead and do println. So on each line, we're going to print a bunch of random numbers. And again, this is not going to work, but now it actually shows our output, okay? So 2, 10, 1, 8, 16, those are the random numbers that we're generating. And it was supposed to stop on, let's verify, a line with 16 or more characters, okay? So that is now correctly working. Here's another one here. Let's take a look. So it generated these numbers until it hit 16. Here's another one here. Went a long ways before it hit 16. So we're generating the correct random numbers. Well, actually, they're not entirely correct. I'll go back to that in a minute. So how do we print a string with all these random number of characters? So hopefully, again, you have to look at where are you starting? Okay, where are we starting is we've got a random number. Where are we going? We need to print a string with that count of random number x's. And then think about what tools do you have at your disposal. So I can think of two tools that we have learned about so far in the book. One way would be to do a for loop with a print of a single character x. Okay, and the other way, and I'll go ahead and make a note for that. One x each time. Or the other idea that I can think of is that we could have a for loop building a larger string and print at the end. Okay, so those are two possibilities. Let's try this first one here. There's actually no indenting here. So I'm going to do for. Now I can. I'll do it the simple way first, a way that's quite clear for you. For int ex equals 1, ex less than or equal to num, ex plus plus. And then system.out.print of x. Okay, so that's going to print a bunch of x's, and then remember you've always got to follow that up at the end with a println. Okay, so what we should see in the output now is it should now be printing a bunch of X's. See, it printed a bunch of X's here. Now you notice that it's not actually the right number of X's, and that's because I didn't give you the full expression here. If you go back to self-check 5.5, you can look up and see why it is that this expression isn't quite working, okay? We needed from 5 to 19, and I gave you from 0 to 19. But I also wanted to show you there's another way of doing this, okay? So instead of printing, we could also have done a building a string. Let's comment out these two lines, and then we'll do it here instead. So we're going to do a for loop. So we're going to have a string. We'll start out as null, and then and I'm going to do the loop a different way this time. No, actually, let's stick with what we did. Okay, so in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to s equals s plus x. Okay, very similar structure, whichever way is easier for you to think about. So let's try running that. Oh, actually, we've got to still print, right? We've got to print s. Okay, so you can see that it is printing, and again, these the wrong lengths, but it does it at least. All right, so what have we learned here? So this randomX problem is a Sentinel loop. Okay, that's an important thing. And the Sentinel value is the random, well, actually the Sentinel value is 16. Okay, that's what we're looking for, and see, you can see that down here. The Sentinel value is 16. And so for that Sentinel loop, we're going to do a do while. Okay, it'll keep on doing it until we hit that Sentinel value. It also tests our random number generation here. This line is not correct, but it's at least the first part of the expression you need. And it revisits our ability to build strings of arbitrary length. Okay, you can either do it this way, actually building the string, or you could have done it this way, just printing them out one character at a time. So that is exercise 5.4 randomX. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. I've got a complete curriculum that will help you out. And thank you very much.